recording up, and I'll
Yeah,
just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Alright.
Let's mobilize.
I think right here I'm playing a little too far back, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. So you just want to keep wary of soldiers fall off range, which maybe we can talk about and go more in depth on at some point, depending on like how big of a problem this continues to be. But this is just, like you said, way far out of range, and you're not really going to be doing too much damage from back here. So, better angles if you're looking to play soldier might be to even like start off like over here, because you can just sprint and jump across this gap pretty easily to like get back to safety.
Yeah, Widow.
Pushing in.
Another thing I noticed as well is that I just wasn't helix rocketing.
Mm.
Like I would just hold it forever.
Gotcha.
So I already know that's kind of an issue, so.
For sure. Yep, and it's definitely just a good idea to get those out there doing things. Like even here, you could just be tossing it in. There you go.
Yeah, took a while though.
Okay, probably could be like looking at the Reaper, who's like kind of inside of our team at the moment. Or your gun's blocking. It might be a bit easier of a target to shoot at because he's a lot closer, and we can help pressure him off of our supports, which he kind of gets to pick on our Moira. So that we probably could help with that. Yeah, so then our teammates just kind of get picked apart. Definitely being closer for faster impact would have been fantastic, because now our whole team's kind of dead before we're even able to do very much.
And we just get lucky here. Don't die.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Yeah, so once again, just playing at a bit too far range. So why don't we like go and specify like what is that range? Because we see that we're a bit too far out, but let's be a bit more specific on it so that what is the right range to be at. Because even then we're going in the positioning at a bit too far of a range. And I do like the instinct. You're going to high grounds, and high grounds are fantastic. You do want to go to high grounds, but
Bro, I think like high ground is the strongest Kiriko ult. To be honest, I don't leave high ground unless I have to.
The only thing to think about is just the only time you don't want high ground is when high ground's not in the fight. When high ground's just kind of too far away or out of line of sight, then high ground's not really going to do anything. Like if the whole fight's like happening over there, right, and the only high ground I have is like here, then you might want to just go to a different, either go to a different high ground or just get closer. Just like it is kind of the idea behind it. So high grounds are fantastic. Just make sure it's actually in the fight. So soldier is
yeah,
there's just
shit.
Yeah. There's other characters that do it better. Right? You can, not to get, don't get me wrong, you have a bit of flexibility, so you can be here on people. It's just kind of going to depend. It's not your preference, because there's other characters that do it better. Reaper, Reinhardt.
Reaper, Junkrat.
Yeah, exactly. So probably want to start off like more mid-ranged, which is going to be about like 15 meters or so, somewhere around here. Is the starting of your preference range. But then you also don't want to go too far back, because then you suffer from multiple issues. Firstly, you have fall off damage, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots to kill.
Not good enough.
Come back to here. Now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots to kill. Right, that's fall off damage. More shots, harder it is to kill. It gets really, if you come back here, where it's going to take us like 20 shots to kill. It's a lot more just because you have very extreme fall off damage. So, therefore, that's going to be one big issue. The other issue is that they're also much smaller targets. Smaller targets are harder to hit, right? So that's much harder to hit than this is right here.
Yeah.
Also, Helix Rocket is going to be, you're going to get less value out of Helix because it's a projectile, and by the time, it's going to be much harder to, and more difficult to land because it has a travel time and they could move out of the way, or just by the time it hits them, they've already just naturally moved out of the way. It's hard to predict where it's going. So overall, we're going to be missing out on a lot of damage and probably going to be letting people get away for free. So you're not a long range character, not a sniper, soldier, more of a mid range. So that'd be like 15 to 30, roughly speaking. You can get closer in certain scenarios, and you can be a bit further in certain scenarios. It kind of depends. But that's your preference, is like 15 to 30. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. All right. Why don't we hop back then?
Now entering King's Row. Ready for objective.
So this is playing more like that at like a 50, 60 meter range or something like that. Like 50, maybe like 50 from here to there.
Just play Widowmaker at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So here, alternatively, could be positioned like right here or so, right? Having cover to use over here. You could be using like this left wall, which would kind of be more okay, because your team's kind of pushed a little, they're holding the choke. So we could be like holding around here and using this left side, and once
I
again,
think
this
that
just
would be
gets us in range.
okay until I get a different comp though, because they
Yeah.
have Reaper Junkrat right now, so being right there is suicide.
It depends.
Mm.
This is kind of like at that, like the very there's like the 30-meter range, but you have cover, you have a health pack to grab. If you need to, you can back out and go this way, right? So this would probably be your best bet right around here, but that's much closer to then up there, right?
Yeah, it sounds a lot better. If I was there, I'd probably get a lot more value, but
Yep. And then even now, just like your team pushes them back, can't really see too much either. Nice kill.
yeah, people were dead, so that's why I pushed up.
This is a fine idea. Yeah, probably a smart move. if we ran down that hallway, we probably get speared and dead.
Speared in the back.
Yeah. Alright.
I don't know where I was going here.
Yeah. Honestly, at this point, this is like an example where, like, yes, it's a high ground tier, and I think maybe if we have our ultimate, this might be an okay play, but we're also like 10% away, so being up on this high ground is I think maybe if you had your ultimate, this would be an okay move, because then we can kind of ult from above and behind, that sort of thing. But at the same time, being up here isn't always going to necessarily be worth it, because it's just such it's a bit niche positioning. Junkrat can kind of come up and contest this pretty easily. We do get the helix in, then we back out main. Okay, there you go. We had our ultimate, so as long as we're wary, we possibly could have stayed up there for ult. Like I don't yeah. That's pretty much it. Like, once we got our ult, I think that's a fine decision. Okay,
So
we're
back down too soon there, pretty much.
yeah. I think maybe could have stayed a little longer.
The Rista forgets about me, so I decided to go in.
All right. We are going to talk about target priority real quick, because I've seen this a decent bit so far. Target priority, to keep it very, very basics, there's a bit more to it, but this is the very simple version, and it's also very important and easy to understand, is that you want to shoot at the things that are going to die, and the things that are going to die are the things that are the easiest to kill, and the things that are the hardest to kill are probably not what we want to be spending too much time shooting at. And by design, the hardest things to kill in the game are the tanks. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor. They have tanking abilities. They have shields. They are easier to heal. overall, like I said, they're just very, very difficult. And that's not to say that we never shoot at tanks. We can shoot at them if they're low, if they're out of position, if they're the only thing that you really can shoot at. But if you have equal opportunity, so this would be, for example, right here, this would be equal opportunity. I can shoot at Orisa or I can shoot at Ana, right? That's equal
Yeah.
opportunity. It's just wrong to be shooting at Orisa. Now, if she was 1 HP here, or if she wasn't using gold and she's out of position, then that's okay. I think that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that she's full HP, being healed by 2 supports. She is using her gold, which means that she's taking half damage and no headshots. Wait, yeah, I can't, honestly, they've reverted that so many times, I don't remember. It's no headshots, I'm pretty sure. So overall, probably not the target to shoot at the moment. And then the other thing on top of that is, even if you don't have equal opportunity, sometimes you can go and actively seek out those easier targets, because it's going to be better to go and seek out the easier targets than to spend the whole game shooting at something that won't die.
Yeah.
Obvious example where we're just spending too much time shooting at Orisa when we have that other opportunity. But then I've seen some other examples as well as throughout the game where we've just kind of been shooting at Orisa a bit too much. And then even among DPS and supports, there's easier and harder ones to kill as well. Okay, so let's see. Take a look. Advantage there, possibly not needed, but I don't think it's a big mistake.
Yeah, Kiriko ult's pretty scary, so.
Yep.
And I think I should have just backed up instantly here, but we get lucky anyway.
Just
No,
like
I think
old
I think
times.
that's fine. Just because once again, like, they push into 5 people. All right. We'll maybe talk a bit about movement. Once we get the chance on that. Here, if you're gonna make the sneaky play, maybe going up the higher ground would be a bit better.
Isn't it a bit risky though? Because they'll see me out of their spawn.
This side, are you talking about this door or that door?
Yeah, that both.
Well,
That door right
this
there.
door, oftentimes, unless they have a reason to, they won't come through this door. They'll prefer to come out at this door because it gets them to the fight faster. So unless they're being like stuffed in spawn, they're not gonna, unless they know that you're here, they're not gonna come out this door. As long as you're crouching, you can get up here and you can, get around this corner without them actually seeing you. And you're also behind them in a spot that they're not expecting, because they're not going to come out of spawn. Usually you're not going to come out of spawn and go, all right, let's check, all around, unless they have a reason to do so, right? Unless you're running around, making, being loud, shooting at things, that sort of thing. So, and then on top of that, you also, well, what can instantly get to you? Only, like, I get the only 2 characters that could instantly get to you would be Junkrat and Kiriko. Reaper would use TP, and TP you could probably, you'd see it and you'd be able to run away from a little bit. The Ramadra couldn't get to you instantly. Ana couldn't. Junkrat could. You'd have to worry for Junkrat. Kiriko could, but also she's kind of skill shot, and it'd be hard to hit you if you're sprinting away from her. That sort of thing. Just gotta be safe about it.
Could you actually back up a little bit?
How
A
far?
little bit more. Yeah, right there.
Moves or something
Or
in
actually,
particular?
just skip back once more, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So right here, the Reaper will push me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I should have just helixed him immediately.
You don't have
instead of
Helix at
running
the
away.
moment. It's on 2 seconds currently.
But it's
So
gonna be up pretty soon, though.
Yeah, well, if we wait here within 2 seconds, then Reaper, we don't want to take this duel. This is smart because taking this duel of Reaper at this close of a range means that we lose because he just has that advantage. You never want to take duels where you know you have an active disadvantage. You take duels where you are even or up, where you have an advantage. So disadvantages could be having less health, not having abilities, it being like a 2v1, them being a better duelist character, you being outside of your preference range. So here, us being outside of our preference range and Reaper being inside his preference range is a big advantage on his end. Even if we had Helix, it's possible that you still lose the duel just because he gets the self heal off of you from his shooting, and he just could melt you, or he could just wraith away and he'd be fine too. Um, and then the other thing is that you don't have Helix yet. It's still in 2 seconds. So in that 2 seconds, he closes the distance and is on top of your head. So I think that is fine to run away here, get
Okay,
away
and
from
then
him.
another thing is,
Mhm.
since I ran to the right side back to my team, you
Mhm.
think it'd be better to go the other way instead?
I don't think so. I think this way puts more distance between you faster because then you're able to turn around and now you could Helix him and take the duel. I think the issue here is that we just forget that he exists after he goes left. Because then we look at the tire and then we ignore the Reaper. Yeah, that's an issue right there, is that we kind of just forget that he's there. Instead of maybe like running, so we run this way over here and back off into this corner instead of maybe like.
Mm.
On my way. On my way.
And then right here, I think there wasn't really a reason to go high ground.
Mm,
Like I should have just gone straight through the tunnel and started shooting him immediately.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
My team was already fighting,
Stay sharp.
so taking the extra time
Yeah.
kind of feels bad.
So this is the concept of right there. What we just did was we did a flank. Flanks are usually longer and they're more dangerous, just by default. And flanks aren't bad for soldier. Soldier has survivability and speed, so he can usually do them. But the thing is that you don't want to go on long flanks in the middle of the fight if the fight's happening, because then notice how we got on this flank, and by the time we're doing anything, the entire fight's happened already, and look at the kill feed, and everyone's dead, right?
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
fight's already lost. So you want to be careful that we're not doing long flanks in the middle of fights. You could have done this at the beginning, before the fight began, or at the beginning of the fight, and that probably would have been a bit better. Even if we go down here, notice even if we went to the bottom and just peeked out immediately, at that point, pretty much like this would already be happening. You might have been better off just sitting down main at that point.
We're outnumbered. Stay sharp.
Just, yeah, like that's pretty much the idea.
And then right here, they forget about me. So I had no reason to push out. Like I could have just stayed there.
Yeah.
Much better stay. Watch your back. Biotics deployed. I'll try to repay the favor.
And for some reason, I thought there was like a platform where the health back is to get back up. So I got lost.
Yeah, so once again, this is kind of out of range. It's just better to be closer, be able to do a lot more from up closer.
My ultimate is almost ready. My
Okay.
ultimate is almost ready.
And then
My ultimate is
right
almost
here,
ready.
I'm pretty lost for a pretty long period of time.
You were pretty lost, you said?
Yeah, from
Mhm.
right here for like a whole minute. I don't do a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Alright, make sure you're not just shooting at air there, just because then you're not really gonna have any bullets for those people to shoot at, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here, when they start ulting in, look how far away they still are. It's possible we could be visoring about now, because then that does... It means that they're likely to push forwards into you, and then if they don't, then you've basically just zoned out their ultimate with your visor, because either they push through the open through Kiriko ult, or if they, and then you melt them, or if they don't, then you've just zoned out the most powerful ultimate in the game, right? So that'd be a pretty decent trade, and that'd probably be decent timing to go for an ultimate. Now you do
So
back
it's
up
just
here.
perfect visor timing, pretty
Yeah.
much. Like I should
So
have just visored immediately right there.
yeah, pretty much that'd be a good idea. You have to think about, when it comes to visor, the best time to be using visor is when the enemy team has no cover, because cover is the counter to your ultimate that every single character in the game has access to, right? You run around the corner and you're fine. Now, most of the time, when you use Kiriko ultimate, it draws you away from cover, because to be in the Kiriko ultimate, you're kind of sprinting straight down the middle at the enemy team, right? It draws you down the middle. Now, it's not impossible to use cover, but it usually does. And then if you're visoring, that can just zone out the Kiriko ultimate. You just want to be careful that it'll maybe depend. Like if the Kiriko ultimate's on top of you, then that's maybe a bit different as well. So it kind of just depend on the scenario.
Yeah, it's like the Kiriko ult's on me. I'm better off just holding visor and dying.
Yeah, or running away at that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will speak to you in the language you understand. My ultimate is ready.
Team's dead, so I'm just waiting.
Yep. Good decision. Okay. One thing I will note is I don't think you've used health pack yet this game. Or if we have, it's been like very, very rare, few and far between. So like few things. Firstly, just pop it whenever you're taking damage. Secondly, you can also pop it when you expect to be taking damage. So, for example, let's say we pop up here and we can say you have visor or you don't have visor. Okay, let's say we pop up here and you have visor. Out of everyone on your team, who are they most likely to start looking at after you start visoring?
Me, as I'm visoring.
Let me just pop usually you can pop your health pack down before you visor, and it kind of animation cancels into it. So sprint around the corner, health pack, visor, right? And what that does is it allows you to sustain through your ultimate longer. So maybe instead of having to run away, you're able to stay here for a longer period of time. Same thing if this was just a regular flank, right? If you're just coming up here to just shoot at stuff, then you can turn the corner, plop your health pack, and start shooting at stuff, and that allows you to stay here longer because you're expecting to be taking damage. Other thing is, this is maybe a bit of a wide peak, and that gets into maybe a bit of cover usage, but we can get the exact same effect if we're just positioning here, and then now we have more cover to work with, which maybe we'll get into cover as we go along, but just a bit of a wide peak at the moment.
There's
But
also a rip tire though, so it's like I kind of need to see.
well, here we can still see rip tire just fine. I mean, like, depending on, like, if you're saying it's going left side or up top. If you hear it start, or if you hear it and you see it starting to come near you, then you can start backing up away from it. But honestly, I don't think that's the tire's gonna come for you. And if it does come around, yeah, if it does come around to you, it sounds like it looks like and sounds like it's coming to those guys. If it did come around to you, then you have your visor, which you can just focus it down really easily.
So just pop the health pack immediately before visoring.
Yep. Yep, and then once again, you're here, pop it. Yep, there you go.
Shields online. Step rider. Thanks.
All right, we're gonna go talk about a couple different things here. Let me go back. None of these, I don't think, they're not like massive things, but they will kind of add up across all of them. So first, let's talk about Helix usage. Helix usage, I think. Generally speaking, you have kind of two different ways to use Helix, and it just really depends on what range you're at with which way you're using it. What Helix does is it's a tool to burst people's health down. Is primarily what it does. So when you are at a closer range, so usually the split is around 20 meters. When you're at a closer range, what you can do with Helix is you can go tap, 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 Helix, and their health bursts down, and use it as a finisher to finish off the target. If you use it first, well, then they take all that damage, and then they say, oh, snap, I just took a bunch of damage, and then they run and get healed or get around the corner, or yada, yada, yada. They do something because they're low HP. Whereas, if they take this much damage, they might not be as terrified to be running away. They might not be as actively looking to try to get away from the duel. They might not be running away, getting cover, using abilities, because they're not low enough yet, right? And then we burst them down and they don't have a chance to do anything. So that's the idea behind the finisher, is that you're bursting their health down before they have a chance to do anything, and it can look like something like that, where it's just coming all at the same time. So usually Helix wants to be used as a finisher when you're at a closer range. Now, you come into an issue at a longer range, where when we're back here, well, now it doesn't really act as much as well as a finisher, because one, it's going to have a delay, and two, it's going to be less accurate because it's a projectile. So it's not even going to be a very solid finisher, right? Because we're not going to be as likely to hit it.
Pretty much just saying that if I was a little further away, I should use Helix as a start.
Exactly.
And if
Use
I'm
it
closer, it's a finish.
Yes, exactly. So now at a range, now you use it as an opener where we can pop it in there first, and then you can still get a very similar effect, because if it does land, you can burst their health down all at the same time again, right? So it basically means that either way you go, you use you're going to be bursting on the health. You just use it a bit differently. So opener, finisher. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is when you're using it, just aim down real quick. So usually you don't want to aim here, because if we miss, it just goes sailing past them into Narnia.
But if you hit their feet, then good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you hit their feet, and you want to hit the direct because it does much more damage, but if you miss, you get splash damage, right? So usually you would go about your stuff, and you'd be aiming up at head level, which we'll talk about in a moment, and then we're gonna look down at their feet real quick with it, and then aim back up. About movement real quick. Movement, couple things with it, right? Firstly, don't stand still. I mean, I haven't really seen you doing that too much, but you don't want to stand still. You want to be moving, because if you're standing still, that's really easy to hit. Now, let's discuss a couple other things that are basically like standing still. If you are moving forwards and backwards, look at how their perspective stays on us the entire time. If they had their crosshair on us, it would not leave us. Forwards and backwards doesn't really do too much. It's basically standing still from their perspective, unless you're doing it this way, in which case now you're moving. Okay. Now let's talk. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to go left, right, and if you do this too slowly, well, then when you run into the same issue where you're very easy target to hit. If you do this too quickly. If you do it too quickly, notice how their crosshair just remains on you the entire time anyways. So it really doesn't do anything if you're doing it too quickly. So you want to find a nice medium balance. So you don't want to just do the same thing over and over again, because once again, that just becomes too easy to predict. So you mix it up. You do left, left, right, right. You just want to find a nice medium pattern. And then you're also going to start to add crouches in. Now, there's an issue, is that you do spam crouching. And spam crouching, as we were discussing before, pretty much does nothing, because if we're aiming at their head here and we spam crouch, notice how our crosshair remains on their head. So it really doesn't do too much, because you're taking up the same space anyways, and it can actually just make it harder to see what's going on your end if you're just doing this, right? It kind of can throw off your eyes in your awareness. It also can slow you down, because now you're moving super slowly, which can make you an easier target to hit if you're moving really slowly, because crouching lowers your movement speed, right? So instead, mix it in with, yes, crouches, but do it a little bit more at a medium pacing, right? So it's all about that medium pacing with this stuff, while being random with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Not where they are.
I'll just have to see it in game. Like, I'll have to actually do it myself. Well, I mean, I've heard about it, but I've never actually done it because I don't play like CS:GO or nothing, so
Gotcha. So
I don't really do it.
yeah, well, crosshair placement is even it is definitely a much bigger aspect of the game in a game like CS:GO or Valorant, but it is still present in Overwatch and is still very important to aim. It's just not as because aim is more of an it is a bigger category of the game within those other games, right? Whereas aim is still important, but it's more like a fifth of the game, probably around like a fifth to a seventh of this game. And it's more of like third or a fourth in the others, right? So it's just a bit less important, but it's still an important thing to keep in mind. So crosshair placement is basically the concept of using your brain to help your aim out. It's placing your crosshair in the best place possible to hit the easiest shots. And the first basic step to this is aiming head level, because headshots do a lot more damage than body shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's basically like 2 times damage across most characters in the game. And that's a lot of extra damage. Headshots are much better. And if we're aiming down here, well, then we're just going to naturally hit body shots. And it's a lot more adjustment to hit headshots. And more adjustment means harder shot to hit than if we just go left, right, left, right. It's a lot more difficult if we're the further we have to go. So if we're just going about our business and we're just shooting down corridors, shooting into shields, shooting at people, and we're aiming down here, well, then we're just going to naturally hit body shots. But if we're doing all the same exact stuff, we're shooting down corridors, shooting into shields, shooting at people, but we're aiming up at head level, well, now we're just naturally going to be hitting headshots just because that's where we're aiming. Continuing with the concept, there's also pre-aiming within crosshair placement. Aiming where you know people are going to be, so if bots top right, we know bots coming top left. We pre-aim at head level, right around that corner, a little bit away from the wall, so that when the bot turns the corner, we're already aiming at their head. It's very little adjustment. It's very easy shots to hit. Bot's left side, so we aim at head level left side. So when we turn this corner, it's very easy shots. These guys are on a bit of a slope, so the same way we're going to adjust down on a Torb and up on a tank, we're going to adjust downwards on these guys. So when we turn this corner, we're pretty much already aiming directly on their head. Very easy shots. So, like I said, it's just all about making shots as easy as possible on yourself. And then, of course, you can adjust as people are jumping and flying and bouncing. And you're going to adjust for different head heights, and you're going to adjust for different slopes and high grounds, but the concept is just aim where you want, where heads are going to be, and then that's going to make headshots easier and shots in general easier on yourself. Sense any questions on it?
So you pretty much say just aim at head level and aim where I think they are? Yeah, but I think it'll be kind of difficult as I don't really have like the map knowledge of slopes and all that yet.
So I mean, of course, it's not going to be easy, and that's be something to continue to look for as you're playing the game. Improve isn't always necessarily easy, right? Getting better
Yeah,
and going for things
if it
isn't
was
always
easy,
yeah.
everyone would be gods.
Exactly. So usually what you can do is, try to just try to pretty much the same way you work on most things in game and out of game, and that is that while you're playing, you're going to want to make sure that you're actively focusing on the thing that you're trying to work on. That means that you're not going to autopilot, you're not going to just play to play, and contrary to popular belief, you're not going to purely play to win, because then you just kind of stagnate, but you're going to play to improve, because then you actually win more. What that will actually look like within your game is you're going to come into your game and you're going to pick something out. So let's say we're thinking on crosshair placement, and you're going to pick it out and you're going to think to yourself as you're playing, crosshair placement, crosshair placement, crosshair placement, head level, head level, head level, pre-aim, pre-aim, pre-aim. And when you're doing that, well, then your crosshair placement's probably going to be a bit better than if you did not put any thought into it at all. And then once you do that for a long enough period of time, it starts to form it as a positive habit. Once it forms as a positive habit, then you don't really need to focus on it as much just because it comes a lot more naturally now.
And that's with pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's with
If you
pretty
just
much everything.
focus on doing that, eventually you get good enough to ignore it.
Exactly. Exactly. Then you move on to the next thing. And then final thing I'd add in there is don't try to do everything all at the same time. Yep.
Yeah,
Be it
multitasking is pretty bad. Don't do that.
if we're thinking crosshair placement in specific, you firstly just go and in the like notice how like most characters share the same head level, right? So if we do Tracer here, headshot, we swap over to Widowmaker, right? That's she actually is a little bit higher. Tracer's a little bit
That's
lower
close
than most
enough, though.
characters. It's close enough, and a little bit higher, right? If we go to Widowmaker and we adjust it, we go to Soldier. Let's see, headshot. Oh, I think we're off to the side. That's why, right? So sometimes characters like their shoulders can get in the way as well. Reaper, headshots.
Kiriko's arm.
Yeah, Kiriko's arm. Yep, exactly. Oh, she has a little bit of a slouch, right? So we have to adjust a little bit downward. So some of these characters you're gonna have a mild adjustment for. Bastion's gonna be a little bit taller, right? He's gonna be more like a tank, right? So you have to adjust upper Bastion. Kree, same level, right? So you just want to get a bit used to where head level is for different characters. Some characters a bit
Bro,
taller,
have
some
you
characters a
seen
bit
how
lower.
tall Sigma is?
Yeah, very tall.
Massive. Like, what is that?
Yep, you have to look up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time in games like this, actually, I guess not as much in like Overwatch. So yeah, it's really gonna be getting a feel for it as you go along and just keeping it in your mind. If we're up here, I'd say that's gonna be like about head level down there. If we're aiming at head here, where it's gonna be like around here when he's coming around the corner. So it's kind of about learning those different head heights, and you'll get better at it as you play through the game and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah.
Just pop up around the corner, place health pack, go for your ult. When you're going for ult, make sure you're trying to aim for headshots still, because you
So,
can.
like, I should just pop health back when I'm going to engage.
Yeah, when you're going in and you're expecting to stay there for a little bit, right? If you're coming up on this flank and you're expecting to stay there for more than 2 seconds, right? Because then we can pop it and start shooting at stuff, and then it stays and it lasts during our engagement, and we can just stay there longer.
Yeah, but if, like, I
sustain it.
just turn the corner and throw in Helix, obviously don't health back.
Yeah,
you're leaving
exactly.
Immediately.
Exactly. Yep. When you're visoring, make sure you're going for headshots as well, just so you can melt people faster. Right, that's a new one that everyone really kind of has to get used to.
I didn't know you could, like, get headshots with visor.
That's a
So
new.
I just haven't been aiming.
Yeah, that's
My visor.
exactly. That's a new Overwatch 2 edition, in like that was a thing in the beta. But yeah.
Oh.
That was not an Overwatch one. Is going for Helix jumps something you're familiar as of yet?
I mean, I've tried it a few times, but, like, I'm obviously not good at it.
Not good
I've
at it.
done
Alright.
a couple times.
Gotcha. So just to make it, I'll simplify it a hair. When going for a Helix jump, which can help
Look at your
you.
feet.
Yeah, look at your feet, right, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to be jumping and helixing simultaneously. So you're pressing the buttons
Oh,
at
at
the
the same
exact
time.
same time. Yeah, the exact same time. And that'll look like that. Then if you're trying to cover horizontal distance, so that's vertical distance, if you do that. If you're trying to cover horizontal distance, like for example, if I'm trying to get over here, I'm going to press the buttons simultaneously and then hold my W button to go forwards. And then I can also sprint while midair. So I'm going to just press those buttons, and then I'm going to press W, and then I'm going to hold sprint in the air. So that can simplify it, because sometimes people get confused or like, okay, which one do I press first?
Yeah, I've been jumping and then helixing.
Yeah.
Same time. Okay.
For a lot of other sorts of things like Farah, you can do that same concept with her different rockets and whatnot. Then yeah, Bastion, who is not really the same time because he has a delay on it. You have to kind of time it.
Yeah. Or you could look straight up as Bastion and then like do double
Yep.
rocket jump.
Yep.
Now entering King's Row, ready for battle.
My
Alright, so we're around here. Alright, so maybe could have gone back on that flank just for a bit better of angling. I think that was a good idea to be over there. Be a bit closer, be on the other thing that the flanks and off angles do for you. So off angles are shorter and safer flanks.
Mm. Yeah.
Just watching for that sort of thing. Those can be really good to do a couple things for you. They can, one, get you around shields and tanks and to the back line.
Mm.
Couple seconds. It also creates a crossfire effect where now they have to split their attention. Either they ignore you, in which case you get value, or they split their attention and have to look in two different angles. They have to heal in two different angles and shoot in two different angles and use tanking abilities in two different angles, which just splits their resources and overall is going to usually be value. So off angling and flanking are usually pretty good on Soldier and a lot of other DPS. Just you gotta
So
be
if I was
careful with
just
flanks.
off angling, I'd be a complete menace right now.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be a good idea here. Just
'Cause
be
right now I'm
careful.
not doing anything, pretty much.
Yeah, yep, yeah.
It's like the same as being AFK.
Yeah, not fully the same, but it's just not as much value from here, right? Just because here we're just kind of shooting at the Sigma, or not Sigma. Oh man, I always get that because they both were, they both look
Yeah.
the same. Yeah, Matra, right? The only thing I'd warn you of is just be careful about flanking on. You don't want to flank on characters that are not that don't have survivability or speed.
Is that Torbjorn?
Yeah. Okay. Kind of just gotta. Yep, there you go. Suicide in for a touch.
I actually lived for so long here though, so ridiculous. Like I just won't die for a while.
Oh my goodness. That's a little funny. Once you see that you have teammates, like you have your
Yeah,
tank
then I
touching,
back
then
off and
yeah, exactly. Good stall, good stall.
And then my team dies and I go touch again. I don't die for a while.
Oh my goodness. All right, well you're doing it good. You're doing what you should be doing. Maybe like I toss in a helix, but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did
That
your
shouldn't happen.
you did your job there.
I did like 3 full shots there.
Yep. Watch by shooting into that. Give him a lot of
And
health.
I swapped Bastion here for Ramatra. And it's Sigma, so.
Yep. Alright, so notice how we're just maybe aiming a bit down there. Going for some body shots. Very nice. Okay. Right now we're up. Watch just the target priority. Probably could be going for the supports over Sigma here because he's just gonna get healed up through it. Uh-oh. Gotta watch that trap.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay.
That Baptiste lamp was so good.
Yep. Yeah. Notice how long during that fight we spent shooting at Sigma and he still ain't dead. Alright, so that just is now here that's fine because like, you know, Kiriko's not really as much of an option for you to be shooting at. So Sigma is fine to shoot at in that scenario.
Do you want to go rewatch that fight then?
Which fight?
That just happened. That entire like capture.
Yeah, well, the point was that like we just shot at Sigma for a lot of it, right? We go through and we shoot at Sigma for a
But like,
good
should I
bit.
have gone into that room on the left?
Not necessarily full. Like, so just look at like stuff like this right here, where we just had the equal opportunity, right? Like, where look at both those supports, right? Like, it realistically, is it that much more difficult to shoot at the Ana here over the Sigma when Ana's really far away from cover at the moment, and she's just gonna die so much faster than Sigma, right? Even if it's a bit smaller of a hitbox, you know, it's still the better target, and you want to practice for it, or you want to practice for that more difficult shots. If they ran around that corner, right, like if they were all over here, then yeah, I'd go through the room. They're so far away from the cover.
And then right here he throws a rock, so I have to go behind the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's fine.
Yeah. So
well, it must be a different spot.
Yeah, no, there he rocks.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep. And then you have to duck around the corner. But still could be just like, you know, peeking and shooting the supports.
So definitely just should have been shooting the supports.
Yep.
Alright.
And then, like I said, here now it's fine because there's not really, you can't really shoot, don't really have the option to shoot at Kiriko as much.
Oh, I did right there, so.
Yeah. Well, and then at that point as well, he's already low, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I'll look around for an ult real quick before we hop out of here. Alright. So going for our ult. That was pretty decent. I like that you kind of comboed with your Rissa as well with it. Nice. Alright. Let's exit out here. We're going to go over the main points of the session, do a quick review, and then wrap up from there with everything. So we were on Soldier for most of it, and then Bastion for that second round. Just do it more. We didn't really use it. Look to use the ability, and then you're gonna get a lot more value out of it. You just use it anytime you take damage, or if you are expecting to take damage, you're trying to sustain longer. Helix, aim at their feet real quick. If aim down from head to feet while we're helixing, and then look back up. Use it as finisher within 20. Use this opener past 20. And then sprint does, you know, not too many issues with that one. Overall, it wasn't the end of the world with your ability. Terrible. Just probably like a low to medium priority for you to work on. Then, besides that, there weren't really too many other things. Maybe just like watch using your ult if you have big advantages, which wasn't a massive deal. Just you could have just held on to it because you were up a little bit in the fight. Use it when they're all out in the open. The priority, and then maybe even a bit below the abilities. Then mechanics is going to be 1, crosshair placement. Make sure you're aiming head level. Make sure you're pre-aiming and aiming where people are going to be. Make sure that when you're not randomly shooting at nothing, so you have ammo for when you need it. Make sure that you're keeping good target priority, right? So when you're going through your fights, shoot at the easiest things to kill, the squishies, usually not the tanks, unless they are now an easy target, they're low, out of position, or you don't really have another option. Let's say they're the only person alive, or they're just in your face, then shoot at the tank. But try to actively seek out other characters, and or even just if you have the equal opportunity, go for other characters.
So, with target priority, it's pretty much shoot the supports or low HP targets and just try to avoid focusing on the tank.
they've become easy. But then even among DPS and supports, notice that there's still a hierarchy among them. Who's going to be easier to kill, a Tracer or a Zenyatta?
Zenyatta.
Zenyatta is going to be
Always.
harder to kill than Tracer?
No, easier.
Oh, easier. Sorry, I said harder to kill. Apologies.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. So Zenyatta, you're correct. Zenyatta is much easier to kill. Who's gonna be? I'll say this time. I'll just change it. Who's gonna be easier to kill? A Widowmaker or Lucio?
Oh, Widow.
Widow, right? So even among those the DPS and sports, there's still a hierarchy. So just usually it's a good idea. Like at the beginning of the game, is just think through the hierarchy. Press tab, look at their comp, scan it real quick, and just do a quick list. Gears say, okay, tank is hardest. Then comes, the hardest to kill is tank. Then comes the Bastion. Then comes the Lucio or Mercy or something like that. So just come up with that list, and then your head.
And then I
Good.
bought the notes on Fiverr or whatever. I don't want those yet. Can I get them at the last session?
Sure, you got.
I only got one of them, I think. Oh, I had two.
No,
of
you
them?
got two. Yeah, you got 2 out of 4.
Yeah, I'll
so
take
do
it now then.
take it now. Okay, so you want to do.
Yeah.
All right. So, then besides that, overall, that was probably like a maybe like higher end of medium priority for you to work on.
So
Then
we have like crosshair placement, target priority, and then movement would be like strafe slower and then crouch slower.
yep. Or more of a medium pacing. Yep, that would be movement.
Yeah.
Positioning, make sure that you're staying within your range. That was probably a big one, right? 15 to 30 meters. Oftentimes you're getting outside of it. High grounds, look to take them, but make sure they're just in the fight, right? They're good high grounds. That it's
Yeah, it's like if
yeah,
I
purpose.
can't shoot anybody, then I'm AFK.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure that you're taking off angles and flanks, but don't take long flanks if it's the middle of the fight, right?
Right.
Use cover. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. I don't think that came up like a ton, but it's something we could go over more in depth in the future. Overall positioning, that one. To just your general surroundings. Where is enemy team at? Where's my team at? Honestly, I think you did pretty decent in awareness. I don't know if there were too many major issues. Kind of pay attention to the flow of the fight, who's winning, who has the advantage in the fight at the moment, or is there a major advantage or something we can cover in future sessions. And overall, that was
I think that my team awareness is pretty bad though. Like it's kind of hard to tell where my team is.
where your team is, yeah. And that's something, just to keep an eye out for and watch for. I just don't think, as of the current moment, I think there's other bigger deals to be focusing and working on. Then comes your Bastion. Bastion wasn't too much different because we only went over him for a minute. Ult was good from what I saw. There wasn't too much else with the abilities. You're using your abilities fine. Yep, so not really too much specifically on Bastion. So put that all in order. Number 1 was going to be, why don't I say positioning, because that positioning sets up mechanics. Then comes mechanics. Then comes your probably just ability usage. Then ult usage. Then awareness. Not really being something we focus too much on for the session, but that definitely is.
Well, I think that I already went over most of my questions, so.
All right. Sounds good with me. So let me stop the